It began on a night drenched in heat and humidity, the kind Savannah never lets you forget. The year was 1991. The crickets sang loud, the air smelled faintly of salt from the nearby marshes, and the neon sign of a corner diner flickered half alive at the edge of East Anderson Street. That was the last place anyone saw Emily Carter. Emily was 21, a nursing student with eyes that still believed in second chances. She had grown up in a modest two-story house on East 39th Street, just a few blocks from Forsyth Park. Her mother, Grace, worked as a seamstress. Her father was long gone, a soldier who had disappeared from their lives years earlier, leaving behind only framed photographs and unanswered questions. Emily had big plans: graduate, move to Atlanta, start fresh. But on the night of July 11, 1991, Savannah closed its eyes around her. And by morning, she was gone. For days, the search was relentless. Volunteers combed through Ogeechee river swamps. Police dogs sniffed through abandoned warehouses, and neighbors, many who barely knew Emily, helped tape flyers to telephone poles. The city's humid air became heavy with fear. People double-locked their doors, whispered through screen windows at night, and watched their daughters a little closer when they walked home. But the answers never came. There were rumors, of course. Some said she ran away. Others pointed fingers: a co-worker she trusted too much, an ex-boyfriend she was trying to forget, a drifter seen near the hospital. But the police found nothing. No body, no struggle, no closure. As years turned to decades, the case faded. Savannah changed. Coffee shops replaced diners. Historic homes turned into Airbnbs. And the generation that once searched for Emily began to grow old. By 2020, only a few remembered her name at all. Yet, in the homicide unit of the Chatham County Sheriff's Office, the file remained. Dusty, but not forgotten. Detective Maya Hargrove found it almost by accident. It was a quiet afternoon in early 2025, one of those slow workdays when old boxes seemed to whisper reminders of unfinished business. She was a second-generation law officer, sharp and stubborn, known for her ability to find what others had overlooked. The label on the worn cardboard box read simply, Asterisk Carter, Emily. Missing person, 1991, asterisk. She pulled out the first evidence bag, a faded photograph of Emily, clipped to a missing poster. Last seen wearing light blue scrubs, white sneakers, silver cross necklace. Maya studied the handwritten note attached to it. No leads, awaiting lab report, 1991. The file was thick, but strangely hollow. Interviews led nowhere. Witness statements contradicted each other. Still, something about the record felt wrong, as if pieces had been intentionally left out. She began digging through archived logs, cross-referencing phone records, re-interviewing anyone still alive who had known Emily. Most were reluctant to revisit the past. But one man's name came up again and again, tucked quietly between statements: Robert Bobby Matthews. Back in 1991, Bobby was 32, a cheerful postal worker. He'd been the one who discovered Emily's mailbox stuffed full of unopened letters weeks after her disappearance. The one who said he'd often talked to her during his delivery route. The one who wanted to help. He'd even joined the volunteer search group, the same group that had unknowingly trampled through potential evidence around Bonaventure Creek. At the time, no one thought much of him. But Maya did. She pulled his old contact card and was surprised to see a recent address not far from where Emily once lived. The same street, in fact, just 4 houses away. By late summer, she reopened the case officially. Evidence from 1991 was tested again with modern technology. DNA under Emily's fingernails, long degraded, now told a different story. A male profile. A match to someone in Georgia's offender database. The name came back as Robert Matthews. When Maya saw it, she set the folder down and just stared at the wall for a long minute. Matthews, now 66, retired from the Postal Service in 2015. He volunteered at the local community center, taught Sunday school, and was considered one of those good old Savannah boys. The kind whose neighbors waved when he passed by in his pickup truck. Over 3 decades, he had built a perfect disguise: familiarity. Maya visited his home quietly one Thursday morning under the guise of a community check. His house smelled faintly of coffee and cedar wood, meticulously clean. Photographs lined the hallway, children, cookouts, church picnics. A man's life curated for comfort. But what caught her attention was the framed newspaper clipping in his office. Asterisk, volunteers continue search for missing nursing student. July 17, 1991. Asterisk, the headline beneath a photo of Bobby himself, smiling beside the search team. She imagined him reading that paper every day for years, the same image of himself pretending to care, while knowing the truth buried somewhere only he could point to. 2 weeks later, the forensic confirmation came in. The DNA sample matched with 99.98% certainty. There was no mistake. Maya's thoughts raced. After 34 years, Savannah's most haunting mystery was finally breaking open. On the morning of September 4, 2025, the department held a press conference. Cameras clicked. Reporters murmured under fluorescent lights. And there, standing at the podium, Maya read the name that would ripple through the entire community. Robert Matthews has been arrested and charged with the murder of Emily Carter. The reaction was instant. Gasps, questions, disbelief. Some of the reporters had grown up posting flyers for Emily as children. Others remembered Bobby handing out mail with a friendly wave. The shock ran deeper than words. Within hours, Savannah's neighborhoods, once quiet and tree-lined, buzzed with conversation. Old neighbors called each other in disbelief. Timid news anchors stumbled through their reports. Social media swarmed with photos of Bobby smiling with families who once saw him as a father figure. And through it all, in the background of every breaking news broadcast, the live feed lingered on the same haunting image. Emily Carter's missing poster, now beside a mugshot. To some, it felt like justice. To others, betrayal. But to Maya, it was unfinished. Because as she stood by her office window that night, looking out over the Savannah River bathed in amber glow, she couldn't shake the feeling that the truth wasn't complete. A man like Robert Matthews didn't just murder out of impulse. There was planning, precision, something colder at play. And when Maya read deeper into the old reports, she found a missing file from 1991, an unsigned witness statement that had never been logged into evidence. A name scribbled in the corner. A name that would change everything she thought she knew about the case, and about the man who now sat in custody. It wasn't over. Because the silence that began in 1991, the silence that haunted Savannah for decades, was about to speak again. Savannah slept that night under its familiar blanket of humidity and uneasy quiet. The moss hung low, swaying over cobblestone streets that had witnessed too much: wars, fires, disappearances. And now, a long-buried truth resurrected. But while the city whispered about the arrest of Robert Matthews, Detective Maya Hargrove sat in her dimly lit office, surrounded by files that refused to stay silent. The unsigned witness statement sat at the center of her desk. The paper was wrinkled, the ink faded, yet the urgency of the handwriting was clear, written fast, almost frantic. The top line read, asterisk, I saw her. July 11th, near the old freight yard. Asterisk, no name, no address, only a shaky initial at the bottom, L.M. Maya flipped back through the 1991 report logs. No mention of this document existed. No chain of custody, no record in the evidence list. Someone, somewhere, had deliberately buried it. She leaned back thinking. The old freight yard sat 3 miles south of downtown Savannah, abandoned since the 80s, now overgrown and fenced off. It was also less than a mile from where Emily's necklace had been found during the original search. That couldn't be coincidence. By morning, Maya was on site. The sun barely risen, its first light bending through the twisted iron gates and sprawling weeds. The smell of rust and river air filled her lungs. She walked slowly, her flashlight beam slicing through the mist that hovered above the cracked asphalt. Near the northern end of the yard, she found remnants of old tape, brittle, yellow, police issued. She knelt to trace the faded word evidence, stenciled faintly on a concrete block. After 34 years, even the ghosts of investigation had begun to fade. But then something caught her eye. Behind a collapsed maintenance shed, Buried beneath layers of dust and vines was a piece of shattered glass. Maya brushed it free with her glove, revealing the logo of Memorial Medical Center etched faintly on the side, an old nurse's ID badge casing. Her pulse quickened. In that instant, the past felt close enough to touch. Later that day, she handed the item to forensics. DNA traces would take time, but the context was already damning. If this belonged to Emily, it placed her at the yard the night she vanished, a detail no record had ever confirmed. Back at her desk, Maya called the only surviving officer who had worked the original case, retired Detective William "Bill" Garrison. He answered after the third ring, his voice gravelly, shaped by years of bourbon and regret. "Yeah, I remember the Carter girl," he said. "Everyone did. Beautiful kid. Whole damn city looked for her." She asked him about the missing witness statement. There was a pause. "The thing about old cases, Detective," Garrison muttered finally, "is that sometimes people higher up didn't want all the details written down. Savannah was smaller than folks protected their own." "Who?" Maya pressed. He hesitated again. "Let's just say the Matthews family had deep roots, and deep favors owed." When she hung up, her stomach was tight. It confirmed what she already feared. Someone had covered for Bobby. And if a document had been hidden for decades, someone else had helped him conceal more than just a body. By late afternoon, Maya drove to St. Julian Street, where Matthew's old postal route had once run. The houses looked the same, their porches sagging under age, their gardens lined with azaleas. Children rode bikes where Emily had once walked home. The past and present coexisted here, overlapping like two translucent photographs. An elderly woman stood watering her plants on the corner. "Detective Hargrove," she called out softly. "You're the one who arrested Bobby, aren't you?" Maya nodded. The woman's hands shook. "He used to drop off mail here. Always so kind." "Hard to believe," she trailed off, looking toward the horizon. "But I always wondered about that night. I heard shouting by the river road. A girl's voice. Then a car door slam. My husband said I imagined it." That detail had never been recorded. Another piece missing from the puzzle. Maya thanked her and returned to her car. Each memory, each confession, was like a faint echo coming back to life. The city seemed to be speaking, one whisper at a time. Back at headquarters, she locked herself in the evidence room. The hum of the fluorescent lights was the only sound as she spread the timeline across the table. 10:45 p.m. Emily leaves hospital. 11:10 p.m. Last seen by hospital security near parking structure. 11:30 p.m. Possible sighting on East Anderson Street. 12 a.m. Silence. Where had Bobby fit into all this? Postal workers didn't usually run night routes, but in 1991, Bobby volunteered for late shifts sorting mail downtown, an alibi that investigators accepted at face value. But payroll records from that summer told a different story. He had clocked out early 3 nights that week, including July 11th. He had the time. He had opportunity. The only missing part was why. Maya decided she needed to confront him again. She drove to the Chatham County Detention Center early the next morning. Matthews sat behind the glass partition, hands clasped, his posture calm, expression unreadable. "You've been busy digging, Detective," he said with a faint smile. His voice was smooth, like someone unbothered by guilt. "I'm just trying to finish what others didn't," she replied. He leaned forward. "You ever think that maybe some things should have stayed buried?" Maya didn't flinch. "Is that what you told Emily before you killed her?" For the first time, his eyes shifted. Not guilt, recognition. He inhaled sharply and looked down at the table. "I didn't kill her," he said quietly. "I just helped someone." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Who?" Matthews blinked, his lips tightening. "You already have the name. You just don't know it yet." Before she could press further, the guards signaled time. That night, Maya sat inside her car, overlooking the river again. Savannah shimmered below, its lamplights reflecting off the water like fragments of old memories. There were still unanswered questions, the witness statement, the missing file, and now a possible new accomplice. She opened the unsigned note one more time. Asterisk, I saw her. July 11th, near the old freight yard. Asterisk the initials L.M. stared back at her. She scanned through the witness list again. Then it struck her. The name buried halfway down. Laura Matthews. Robert's wife. The silence of Savannah deepened. And beneath the great oak trees of Forsyth Park, the wind began to whisper a name long hidden in the shadows. The morning sun rose reluctantly over Savannah. Its light filtered through Spanish moss that seemed to hang heavier than usual. The air carried that uncanny stillness that comes after revelation, a silence full of meaning. Detective Maya Hargrove hadn't slept. She sat slumped at her kitchen table, tracing circles around the initials L.M. written at the bottom of that forgotten statement. Laura Matthews, Robert's wife. In 1991, Laura would have been 28, younger than Maya was now. The public knew her as quiet, polite, deeply religious, and for years she had stood beside Robert at church picnics and community drives. But the more Maya thought about it, the clearer it became. Maybe Laura had never truly been silent. Maybe someone had made sure her voice stayed buried. By 8 in the morning, Maya was parked outside Laura's current address, a modest white house on the outskirts of town, weathered but well kept. The curtains were drawn tight despite the heat. The neighborhood felt hollow, the kind of place where people no longer waved to their neighbors. After a few knocks, the door opened. Laura stood there, smaller than Maya expected, shoulders curved inward like someone who had spent a lifetime shrinking herself to fit into shadows. Her hair, once blonde, was streaked with gray. Her eyes carried something else, not fear exactly, but exhaustion. "I figured you'd come eventually," she murmured, stepping aside to let Maya in. The living room looked frozen in another decade. Floral wallpaper fading at the seams, cross-hung walls. A collection of porcelain angels layered with dust. The air smelled faintly of lavender and old paper. Laura gestured toward the couch. He always said no one would come knocking again. He was wrong, wasn't he? Maya took out her notepad. "We reopened Emily Carter's case. Your husband's DNA was matched to evidence from the crime scene. But you already know that, don't you?" Laura's eyes flickered. "I know he isn't the man people thought he was, though maybe he convinced himself otherwise." She sighed, gripping the edge of the sofa cushion. "You have no idea what it was like back then." "Then help me understand," Maya said softly. For a moment, Laura said nothing. Then her voice began to crack. "That night, July 11th, 1991, he came home late, really late. His shirt was torn, and there was something on it. I asked, and he said it was paint. But it wasn't. It was blood. I remember the smell." Maya leaned forward. "I tried to call the police," Laura continued, "but he stopped me. He told me she had tried to leave him. Said he'd only wanted to talk. I didn't even know who he meant until a few days later, when I saw her face on the news." Her hands trembled as she spoke. "He threatened me. Said if I ever told anyone, I'd end up like her. And I believed him. So I wrote that statement, hoping someone would find it. I left it in an anonymous envelope at the precinct. But no one ever followed up. Someone must have hidden it." "Did you see her that night?" Maya asked carefully. Laura nodded, tears welling. "I did. I was waiting in the car. He told me to stay put. I saw them arguing by the freight yard. She wanted him to leave her alone. She got in her car, but he grabbed her. It happened fast, too fast. I screamed, but her voice broke. He hit her. She fell. There was so much blood. The words fell heavy in the room. What happened next?" Maya whispered. "He told me to help him. I couldn't. I froze. He dragged her into the back of his truck. Later that night, we drove down by the Ogeechee River. He was quiet the whole way, calm, like it was just another errand. We buried her near an old drainage field. I remember the sound of the water. I've never gone back." For the first time in decades, Laura wept openly, the kind of sob that shakes years of silence loose. "He said God forgave him. That's what he told himself. But I never forgave either of us." Maya let her cry. Sometimes the truth released itself slowly, and interruption ruined it. When Laura finally looked up, her gaze hardened with a strange kind of resolve. "If you want to find her, start at the Riverbend off Highway 204, near the old pump station. He used to call it the quiet place. Maya's chest tightened. It matched the area police had once searched, though never that specific stretch. "I'll go there today," she said. "But first, I need you to give a statement. If you're ready." Laura nodded faintly. "I've been ready for 30 years, Detective." By mid-afternoon, investigators and forensic units converged on the described location. The ground was damp, thick, with tangled roots and wild grass. The Ogeechee's brown water moved sluggishly under the weight of late summer humidity. Maya watched as teams began digging where Laura pointed. Every scrape of the shovel seemed to disturb time itself. And then, after hours of silence, one of the techs called out, voice cracking through the air. "Detective, we've got something." Maya rushed over. The team unearthed pieces of deteriorated fabric, faintly blue, and the shimmer of something metallic, a necklace. A silver cross, still intact, though dull with age. Her throat tightened. The one Emily had worn when she disappeared. By the time they unearthed skeletal remains beneath the fabric, Maya's hands were shaking. A long-forgotten presence now rested under the open Georgian sky, finally seen after 34 years. As the coroner carefully began the recovery, Maya stepped aside, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're home now, Emily." That night, Savannah's local stations broadcast live as the sheriff's office confirmed what many had feared, that the remains belonged to Emily Carter. For the city, the mystery was solved. Closure, they called it. But for Maya, it was never just about headlines. Because justice wasn't as simple as identifying a body. Back at the detention center, when Maya walked into the interrogation room, Robert Matthews simply smiled when he heard the news. "So you found her," he said, his voice calm, detached. "It's strange. I always thought someday someone would." "You don't sound sorry," Maya replied. He leaned forward. "I told you before, Detective. I didn't kill her. She slipped. I panicked. I buried her. Your wife says otherwise." Something flickered in his expression, not surprise, but irritation. "Laura talks too much. She always did." "She kept your secret for 30 years, Maya shot back. "That's more loyalty than most murderers deserve." Robert tilted his head, studying her. "Did she tell you the whole truth? What does that mean?" He leaned closer, voice low. "Ask her why Emily was with me that night. Ask her what she was really afraid of." Before Maya could speak again, he sat back, his faint smile returning. "You think you've solved something, Detective. You've only just dug up the first piece." Later, as Maya drove away, his words gnawed at her. The case had answers now, but not all of them. Why had Emily met with him voluntarily? Why had Laura stayed silent for so long if she truly wanted the truth out? The next morning, when she went to check on Laura, the curtains were still drawn, but this time, no one answered the door. The front window was open just an inch, and through it came the faint sound of a television left running. Maya's pulse quickened as she pushed through the door. The living room looked untouched, tea still warm, notepad on the table. But Laura was gone. Standing there, a chill ran through Maya's spine. The case that had begun in 1991 wasn't done yet. Something, or someone, still wanted part of the truth buried. Out past the oak-lined roads of the old city, the wind moved like a whisper through the trees. Savannah had surrendered one secret, but in doing so, it had awakened another. Detective Maya Hargrove stood motionless in the living room, the faint hum of the television breaking the still air. The teacup on the table left a ring of condensation, recent, maybe an hour old. A plate with untouched toast sat next to it. Nothing looked forced or violent. No broken glass. No struggle. But Laura Matthews was gone. Outside, heat rolled in waves across the cracked pavement. A cicada droned somewhere in the distance, uncaring that the only living witness in Savannah's most infamous cold case had vanished overnight. Maya called it in. Within minutes, squad cars lined the sleepy street, lights pulsing red and blue against the white siding of Laura's house. Evidence techs dusted for prints. Neighbors gathered on porches, whispering in disbelief. "She left right after y'all found that girl's body," muttered one older man from across the street. "Saw her drive off just before dawn. Didn't look right. She was crying." Did you see where she went? Maya asked. He shook his head. Old blue Buick. Headed west toward the river road. The words hit her like a cold wave. The river again. By noon, Maya had officers searching nearby highways and bridge cameras. Laura's car was caught on one traffic feed headed toward Fort McAllister Road, roughly the same direction where Emily Carter's remains had been found. It didn't feel random. Maya drove out there herself, tires spitting gravel as she turned off the main road and onto the narrow, tree-canopied trail along the Ogeechee. The Georgia sun was merciless. Even the wind was thick with heat and salt. Half a mile in, she spotted the blue Buick, parked crookedly in the grass near the old pump station. Doors locked. Engine off. No one inside. She opened the driver's side door carefully, unlocked. Now, a single piece of paper lay folded on the seat, weighed down by a rosary. Maya unfolded it, her throat tightening as she read. Asterisk, I kept quiet for too long. There's still more, detective. Follow the truth where I couldn't. I'm sorry. Asterisk. There was no signature, but the handwriting matched Laura's statement. Down by the riverbank, footprints disappeared into the mud. Beyond that, only silence. For hours, search teams combed the area. Drones, divers, dogs. But as dusk washed over the marsh, it became clear. Laura Matthews was gone, just like Emily Carter once had been. That night, Savannah's news station spun theories fast. Some said she'd taken her own life, overcome with guilt. Others whispered that someone had silenced her before she could talk more. To the public, it was another eerie twist in a story that already felt cursed. But to Maya, it was proof there was still something, or someone, controlling the narrative. Back at her apartment, she replayed the old recordings of Robert Matthews's interrogations. His calm, his smirk, his final words still echoed. Asterisk, ask her why Emily was with me that night. Asterisk, what had Emily been doing with him? Their connection went beyond coincidence. That much was clear now. The following morning, Maya returned to the evidence room and combed through Laura's old church files. Weddings, funerals, baptisms, Savannah life immortalized in handwritten ledgers. And there, between the entries from 1990 and 1992, she found it. Asterisk Volunteer Outreach, Memorial Medical Center. Coordinators, Laura Matthews, Emily Carter, asterisk. They had known each other. Maya leaned back, stunned. Emily hadn't been just a stranger or an innocent victim caught in a passing encounter. She might have known Laura personally, maybe even trusted her. It cast the entire case in a new light. Was it possible Laura had lured Emily to meet Robert that night? Maybe not with bad intentions, but to fix something? Or to stop something worse? Questions sprouted faster than answers. By that afternoon, Maya was in the detention center again. Robert sat waiting, arms crossed, that same detached calm on his face. She slid the church record across the table. Your wife and Emily volunteered together. You never mentioned that. He didn't blink. Why would I? They weren't strangers. Emily trusted Laura. Maybe that's how you convinced her to meet you that night. He chuckled under his breath. Detective, you're good. But you still don't understand. That night wasn't about me and Emily. It was about Laura. Maya frowned. What do you mean? He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Laura thought Emily was seeing me. She found out we'd been talking. Maya froze. Talking about what? About getting out. The room went cold. Robert's lips twitched upward. I told Emily I wanted to leave Laura. I meant it at the time. We'd meet after her shifts, talk in her car. Nothing happened, not the way people think. But Laura found one of her letters. So was it jealousy? Maya asked, voice tightening. Not mine, he said. Hers. The words hung in the air like fog. Robert leaned back, his smirk fading into something colder. You think I buried a woman over nothing? You think Laura didn't help because she was scared? She helped because she wanted it done. The girl had become a problem for both of us. Maya's stomach twisted. Your wife confessed to witnessing you hit Emily. Half the truth, he interrupted, voice sharp now. Ask yourself, detective, who led her down that road? Who asked for a ride home that night? Maya's pulse sped. He wasn't denying it this time. He was twisting it, shaping a story where none of them were innocent. Back at her office, she pulled Laura's record again. In 1992, 6 months after Emily vanished, Laura was admitted to Memorial Medical's psychiatric wing. Brief stay, suicide watch, record sealed. That explained why no one questioned her further back then, why she vanished from public life soon after. Maya stared at the file until her vision blurred. If Laura had played a role, even accidental, the guilt could have eaten her alive. Maybe that's why she disappeared now, to escape it once and for all. But something about Robert's composure still felt off. He wasn't reacting like a man who'd lost control of the story, more like someone who knew exactly how it would end. That night, storm clouds gathered along the horizon, thunder rolling faintly over the marshlands. Savannah's air felt charged, uneasy. Maya sat by her window, pen tapping against her notebook. She went through every piece of evidence again, line by line. And then she saw it, a detail she'd overlooked. The freight yard surveillance logs from 1991 weren't completely blank. One entry, time-stamped 11:27 p.m., recorded a utility vehicle passing through the service gate that night. The driver's name, Laura Matthews, the same woman who claimed she had only waited in the car. Maya exhaled sharply, realization settling in. Laura hadn't been some passive witness. She had been inside the freight yard, her vehicle logged and cleared by a guard who never thought twice. That explained Robert's cryptic words. If Laura had been part of it, even unwillingly, it wasn't fear alone that had silenced her. It was guilt. But if she truly felt remorse, why come forward now? Why vanish right after giving the location of Emily's body? Unless she wasn't running from something. Maybe she was running to something. Maya's phone buzzed, a message from the river search team. Asterisk, found vehicle debris south of pump station. Blue paint chips. Possible scene disturbance. Asterisk. She grabbed her keys and headed out. By the time she arrived, rain had begun to fall, turning the riverside into slick mud. Flashlights bobbed in the dark as officers flagged off sections of ground. And there, 15 feet from the water's edge, a single silver bracelet glinted beneath a bush. It wasn't Laura's. It was engraved with a single letter, E. Emily's. The storm broke open above them as thunder boomed across the river. Maya stared down at that bracelet, drenched, heart-pounding. Someone had come back here recently. Someone who didn't want this place left untouched. She looked toward the dark tree line. Lightning flashed, illuminating the outline of something or someone just beyond the clearing, gone before she could focus. For the first time since reopening the case, fear pressed hard against Maya's ribs. Maybe the story of Emily Carter's death wasn't just about revenge, guilt, or betrayal. Maybe it was something far more tangled, a web that hadn't fully revealed its shape. Savannah had given up its ghosts one by one. But beneath its dripping oaks and quiet streets, there was still one voice left in the dark. The one the city had never heard. The one still waiting to be found. The Ogeechee River always looked different at night. When the city lights of Savannah faded to the north, the water turned black and endless, its surface glinting only when thunder rolled across the clouds. Detective Maya Hargrove stood ankle-deep in mud, rain sliding down her jacket, the river whispering beneath the noise. It wasn't just the storm that unsettled her. It was the feeling that she wasn't alone. She directed the forensics team to secure the bracelet and photograph the area. The initials engraved, that single E, told her all she needed to know. Someone had come back here since the discovery of Emily's body. Maybe to leave something. Maybe to warn her. Detective, a voice shouted through the static of the rain. Officer Ruiz, flashlight trembling slightly, pointed toward the far edge of the riverbank. There's something else. Maya followed his beam until she saw it, faint tire tracks, deep and freshly cut into the mud. 2 sets headed in. Only 1 set came back out. Bag and mold cast those before the rain washes them out, she ordered. And get a tow crew ready in case that missing car's underwater. As Ruiz moved to relay orders, Maya crouched near the tracks. Beneath the tire grooves was something shiny, a fragment of broken glass. She picked it up carefully and turned it over in the light. It was part of a headlight. A Buick's headlight. Laura's car hadn't just been parked here. It had gone into the river. Just after sunrise the next morning, divers pulled the blue Buick from the water. Its front end twisted, windshield cracked, license plate dangling. Inside, the current had done its work, washing away most traces of life. But in the driver's seat, still restrained by her belt, was Laura Matthews. Her expression, even in death, was strangely calm. The coroner's early report was brief. No signs of an external struggle. The car had rolled in slowly, likely from neutral gear. They suspected suicide. Maya didn't. In her years on the job, she'd learned to trust the subtleties, the way guilt and fear leave their marks. Laura's note, the single line suggesting unfinished truths. This was no quiet surrender. It was execution disguised as despair. Maya studied the site again that afternoon, walking the bank alone after the crew cleared out. She noticed something the others hadn't. 50 feet from where the tires had slipped, there was another set of footprints. Smaller, barefoot. Someone else had stood there that night, watching. The storm had passed, leaving the air thick, the river shining like oil under the reopened sun. Maya pulled out her phone and dialed the detention center. "I need another talk with Robert Matthews," she said. When she arrived, the guard gave her a wary look. "He's been quiet. Too quiet. You sure you want to stir that up again?" Maya nodded. "That's the point." Inside, Robert sat in the same position as always. Calm, collected, eyes sharp behind the glass. "You must have heard," Maya began. "Your wife's dead." He didn't react immediately. Then, with a thin smirk, he said, "Then I guess she finally found peace." Maya clenched her jaw. "You made sure she'd never speak again." "Detective," he said smoothly, "I've been locked in this box since you picked me up. Hard to drown someone from here." He leaned closer until the reflection of the glass split his face in two. "But the truth is slippery, isn't it? You dig for it long enough, it drags you under too." "Who helped you?" she asked. He said nothing, but his smile said enough. Back at headquarters, Maya gathered the crime scene photographs. Laura's autopsy pointed to a single sedative in her system, one too heavy for over-the-counter sleep aids. The residue matched a prescription filled for Robert in 2024, back before his arrest. A refill bottle gone missing from his home during the investigation. Someone had access. Someone had used it. Maya's mind shifted to the geography, how Laura's car had reached the pump station undetected. Only one back road led there, one rarely used except by maintenance staff. And the access records from that week showed 2 entries. One for the sheriff's utility truck, one unlogged. She called Ruiz. "Find me every employee connected to that access route in the last 6 months. Maintenance, utilities, contractors, all of them. If Matthews didn't do this himself, someone did it for him." By evening, Ruiz brought a list. One name stood out, Daniel Cray. Former postal clerk. Retired. Served under Robert Matthews in the early 90s. Maya stared at the photo, gray hair, round face, but eyes that carried the same worn calm as Robert's. "Bring him in," she ordered. It didn't take much. Cray wasn't a man used to confrontation. When they found him, he was sitting in his porch rocker, mail scattered at his feet. "I knew she'd go back there," he muttered before they even cuffed him. "Couldn't stay away from that river." Neither of them ever could. At the station, under the glare of the interrogation lamp, his story unfolded. "Bobby called me before he was arrested," Cray said. "Said if things ever went bad, I should make sure Laura didn't start talking crazy. I thought he was joking. But then she came clean to the police. I panicked." "So you followed her," Maya said quietly. He nodded. "She was at the river already when I got there. Said she needed to make things right. I tried to talk her down, but she wouldn't stop crying. Took out that bottle from her purse, Bobby's old pills. Said she'd take them all. Said the water would forgive what the earth couldn't. I tried to pull her away, but she got in the car. I watched her drive right in." Maya's chest tightened. "So you just watched?" Cray looked up, eyes hollow. "That's what we all did, Detective. All the way back to 91. We just watched and said nothing." When she left the room, the case file in her hands felt heavier than ever. Officially, The record would close neat. Laura Matthews, suicide. Assistant, coerced silence. Victim, recovered. Perpetrator, awaiting trial. But Maya couldn't rest. She returned once more to the riverbank at twilight, drawn there like something unfinished was calling her back. The trees whispered as the day slipped into indigo. The air smelled of moss and wet earth. Standing at the same spot where Laura's car had entered the water, she noticed something small glinting from the mud, a silver chain. Lifting it gently, she saw it wasn't Emily's or Laura's. A new engraving caught the last light of the sun, M.H. Her initials. It took her a split second to process. The chain was hers. But she had never been here before. Not this close to the water. She froze, scanning the shadows. The forest behind her was still. Too still. Then a twig cracked. Maya turned, flashlight cutting through the dimness. For an instant, she saw a figure between the trees, tall, unmoving, watching. The beam caught the outline of a raincoat, then nothing. She took a cautious step forward, calling out, "Police, show yourself." No answer. Only the rhythmic lap of water against the shore. When she reached the treeline, the figure was gone. But something new hung from a low branch, a single, waterlogged envelope taped to the bark. On it, in neat, deliberate handwriting, *, "You're looking in the wrong direction." *. Inside were photocopied pages of an old case log, her own investigation notes from 3 weeks ago, stolen from her locked drawer. Maya's heart hammered. Whoever was behind this wasn't just a ghost of the past. They were here, now watching every step she took. As the storm clouds began to roll back over the river, she knew this wasn't about Emily or even Laura anymore. Savannah's silence hid one final secret, one that reached far beyond the Matthews family. Maya closed her eyes and took a long breath, the smell of the water seeping into her lungs. The river had become something more than evidence now. It was a witness, a keeper of truths too heavy for paper, too dark for courtrooms. And as the first rumble of thunder cracked across the sky, she whispered to no one in particular, "Then I guess it's time to dig deeper." The morning after the storm, Savannah woke to a gray sky and the scent of wet earth. The streets glistened, washed clean by the night's rain, but Detective Maya Hargrove felt no sense of renewal. She sat at her desk in the Chatham County Sheriff's Office, staring down at the photographs spread before her. The envelope from the river lay to her left, its message replaying in her mind like a riddle. *, "You're looking in the wrong direction." *, wrong direction. The phrase wouldn't stop echoing. Files and evidence piled around her like walls closing in. Case reports, witness statements, old audio reels. Every piece she had gathered since reopening Emily Carter's case told one version of the truth, but the envelope implied there was another one, hidden beneath the version everyone had accepted for decades. Maya called Ruiz. "Check access logs for last night. Anybody entered evidence storage?" "No one," he said immediately. "Digital or physical access, everything's clean." "They're good," Maya murmured. "Too good." She ended the call and turned toward the evidence box marked Carter, Emily, 1991. She had stared at that same box for months now, but that morning, something made her notice what seemed like a trivial flaw. The case number was handwritten, not typed, unlike every other file from that year. When she compared the handwriting to other records, her pulse skipped. It wasn't police handwriting. It was Laura Matthews's. The discovery sharpened everything. Laura had worked at Memorial Medical Center, not in law enforcement. So how had her writing ended up on an official police file? Unless she'd written it later, after the case was shelved. Maya opened the box again, methodically lifting each piece of evidence. Near the bottom, beneath layers of faded reports and crime scene photos, she found a manila folder taped shut, the same kind of tape used back in the early 90s, peeling at the edges now. Across the front, written in the same slanted script, *, "To whoever still cares." *. Her hands trembled slightly as she peeled it open. Inside were copies of incident reports that didn't exist in digital archives, photocopies of witness statements, internal memos, and something she hadn't expected. A photo of a man she didn't recognize, printed from a Polaroid with the caption, *, Asterisk Detective Garrison, 1991. Asterisk. Bill Garrison, the same retired officer Maya had interviewed weeks ago. Her throat tightened. Tucked under his picture was a typewritten memo signed by his name. Asterisk per directive. File unresolved Carter leads under administrative hold. Public disclosure restricted per city supervision. Asterisk. That wasn't protocol. It was a cover order. The wrong direction message suddenly made sense. Maya had been focused on the Matthews family, but maybe the silence that protected them began within the system that was supposed to find the truth. She picked up the phone. Ruiz, I need you to pull all archived communications from July to September 1991. Anything logged from Garrison's badge ID. On it. You think he buried this? I think somebody made sure he did. Within the hour, Ruiz appeared with a USB drive. Pulled what I could. A lot of missing data, like entire days wiped. But I found one recording that slipped through, a call patch from the 15th of July, 91. It was between Garrison and the precinct chief. Maya inserted the drive and hit play. The audio crackled with decades of degradation. A male voice, Garrison's, spoke first. Asterisk, we've got media on this Carter girl all over the South Side. The Matthews angle's heating up. You want me to push it? Asterisk. A second voice answered, calm and deliberate. Asterisk, no. Slow it down. Man's family. We owe him some space. Asterisk. Sir, the girl's neighbors are talking. Asterisk, then make them stop. Don't make a spectacle. Savannah doesn't need another scandal. Asterisk. The line beeped. End of recording. Maya stared at the screen, her heart pounding. The chief in 1991 was now long retired, Richard Holman, a man once praised for integrity, still living quietly in South Carolina. But that phone call changed everything. Holman had shut the investigation down from the top. Why? What was Bobby Matthews to him? Her instincts told her money wasn't the motive. This was protection built on favor and secrecy, maybe even family. By mid-afternoon, Maya was on the highway north toward Beaufort County, where Holman lived. The rain had passed, but the air remained heavy, pressing down on the sugarcane fields stretching toward the horizon. She found Holman's house easily, a wide ranch-style home set behind a field of pecan trees. The man himself answered the door, his hair pure white now, skin marked by 80 years and too many summers under the Georgia sun. Detective Hargrove, he said as soon as he saw her badge. I wondered when you'd come. You know why I'm here, Maya replied. He sighed, motioning for her to step inside. The house smelled of tobacco and dust. Photos of smiling grandchildren lined the mantel. Ordinary innocent, all a front. I know, he said again, settling into a creaking leather chair. You found the tape. I kept a copy, once burned it years ago. Why did you bury Emily Carter's case? Maya demanded. Why protect Robert Matthews? He looked at her for a long time before answering, eyes glassy but steady. Because back then, Savannah wasn't ready for the truth. Robert wasn't just some mail carrier. His father was my deputy. Died in the line of duty. The city owed that family. People wanted to believe the son turned out different. I helped them believe it. Maya felt her jaw clench. At the cost of a young woman's life. I know, Holman said quietly. And not a day passes, I don't regret it. But you should understand something, detective. There were more hands on that decision than mine. We weren't covering for Bobby alone. He wasn't the only one there that night. Her pulse jumped. Who else then? He hesitated, eyes drifting toward the window. Your department has a new name now, he said finally, almost a whisper. Different leadership. But the roots are the same. Maya stepped closer. Say it. Detective, Holman said, voice trembling now. My recommendation? Don't dig further. Because the man who ordered me to close that case in 91 still holds influence. He's no longer police. He's politics. He's the reason Savannah sleeps easy thinking it's an honest town. She realized her hands were shaking. Give me a name. His next words were almost inaudible. Alan Crowell. Maya knew the name instantly. Crowell, now the city's district attorney, one of Savannah's most respected officials. the man she'd worked with on multiple cases, including this one. When she left Holman's house, her head spun. The old man's words looped inside her skull like static. If Crowell had ties to the Matthews case, if he'd been part of the cover-up in '91, then every step of Maya's investigation had been under his watch. Every warrant, every approval, every court filing. Back at her car, she caught sight of movement in her side mirror. A white pickup pulling onto the opposite side of the road. It didn't pass. Didn't turn. Just sat there, watching. She started the engine. The truck followed. Maya's hand tightened around the wheel, keeping her pace steady. She turned off onto an old service path that cut through the tree line. The truck followed again, headlights dimming now, deliberate. By the time she reached the highway, it was gone. But on her windshield, pinned under the wiper, was something that hadn't been there before, a Polaroid. It showed Maya standing on the riverbank from 2 nights earlier, flashlight in hand, her expression frozen mid-focus. Someone had been there, photographing her. She turned the photo over. On the back, scrawled in black ink, "Asterisk, we told you not to dig." Asterisk. Maya sat in silence, her heart a steady drumbeat of adrenaline and fury. It was clear now, she wasn't fighting ghosts anymore. This wasn't about a single murder. It was about a chain of protection stretching 34 years deep, rooted in every corner of Savannah's power. And if the men who'd built it thought intimidation would stop her, they didn't know Detective Maya Hargrove. The next morning, she would walk into Crowell's office and look him in the eye. But tonight, as the city's lights flickered across the dark river, Maya realized the cost of the truth she was chasing. It had already taken Emily. Then, Laura. Maybe next, it would be her. Still, she whispered into the silence, "Not yet." Savannah woke under a heavy sky, the kind that blurs sound and color. Detective Maya Hargrove had barely slept. Every image from the night before, the tape, Holman's trembling voice, the whispered name of Alan Crowell, played through her mind like static that refused to fade. The city's district attorney, the same man who had supervised Emily Carter's reopened case. The same man she had trusted. By 8 a.m., she was walking the marble halls of City Hall, adrenaline replacing sleep. Crowell's office door stood open. His assistant's protests followed her inside. Crowell was mid-conversation with 2 men in suits. His posture was confident, but his smile faltered when Maya entered. "Gentlemen," he said evenly, "give us a moment." When they left, the silence between them was almost ceremonial. Savannah's power meeting its conscience. Maya dropped a worn folder on his desk. "You buried a murder, Mr. Crowell." His brow arched. Bold start to a conversation. She opened the file. Holman confessed. "This directive," she pointed to a photocopied memo, "is your handwriting. You ordered the Carter case suppressed in 1991. He studied her calmly. "That's a serious accusation." "It's also true." Crowell chuckled softly, walking around his desk until they stood face to face. "Detective, I was a junior attorney then. I didn't have authority to close a case, much less order one suppressed." Maya's jaw set. "But you had friends who did." His smile thinned. "You're treading on ice thinner than you realize." "I'm past the point of worrying about the surface," she said. "You protected Robert Matthews, and a girl rotted in the ground because of it." He looked away, to the window that overlooked the Savannah River, dark water moving beneath clouds. "Do you know what this city was like in '91? We lived on image, not justice. A scandal back then would have sunk every institution tied to that family. So yes, I helped it disappear." "How noble," she shot back. "All those years later, you're still running from the truth." Crowell turned, eyes suddenly cold. "You think you're chasing justice. What you're chasing is a memory that will drown you like it drowned the rest." She grabbed the folder. "We'll see." By noon, Maya was at the precinct with Ruiz. "Give me a warrant for Crowell's city correspondence. 1991, all of it." Ruiz hesitated. "Hargrove, that's going to shake the entire building." "Good," she said. Within hours, boxes arrived. Most contained city council paperwork, unremarkable. Then, in the last folder, hidden between tourism files, she found it, a postcard. Forsyth Park at night. On the back, scrawled in the same handwriting as the river note, asterisk, you're still looking the wrong way. Asterisk. The postmark date struck her cold, 4 days ago. Laura's death had been recent. This had been mailed before she died. Maya called the detention center immediately. Confirm Robert Matthews's calls and visitors for the past week. After a pause, the guard said he had one detective. Lawyer from the DA's office. Name Brantley. Said Crowell sent him. Crowell again. Maya drove there at once. The inmate waiting room smelled like bleach and old paper. Robert Matthews looked the same, calm, hands folded, that unsettling smile. Detective, he greeted. You've been busy. I heard you have something to say. He nodded. They finally told me I could talk truth. You've been chasing the wrong demon. I'm listening. Robert leaned forward. Emily wasn't killed because she rejected me. She died because she threatened Laura. My wife was jealous, scared. Thought Emily would ruin us. Things got violent. I buried her to protect Laura, and Crowell handled the cleanup. Maya's pulse spiked. You're saying Crowell knew everything. Robert smiled faintly. He drafted my statement. My alibi. He knew she wouldn't stay quiet forever. That's why she's gone now. Gone, Maya repeated quietly. You mean dead? Robert didn't answer, just gave a small, satisfied shrug. By nightfall, Savannah was buzzing with rumors. Crowell had caught wind of Maya's move and scheduled a press conference. His timing was too precise to be coincidence. Standing in the crowd, Maya watched as Crowell faced the cameras beneath bright lights, immaculate as ever. Detective Hargrove has acted without warrant, he declared smoothly. She has falsified records and endangered an ongoing investigation. We are cooperating fully with internal review. Reporters shouted questions. Crowell smiled like a man performing on cue. Ruiz found her in the crowd. He's turning the city against you. Maya watched him on stage, that polished voice feeding lies while the public applauded. Then we turned back. She drove straight to Holman's house, the rain beginning again in steady streaks. The old man answered without surprise. I figured you'd be back, he said quietly. He's smearing me. I need you on record. His eyes were tired, the look of someone who'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. You can protect me? I'll try. But if we stay silent, he wins again. Holman hesitated, then nodded once. At the station, the interview room buzzed with the faint hum of the recorder. His voice trembled, but his words were clear. Former District Attorney Alan Crowell ordered the Carter investigation suspended. He cited public image and political repercussions. I followed orders. I regret it every day since. He paused, then added, Detective Hargrove is the only one who ever asked why. The statement finished at exactly 9:58 p.m. Maya signed it, time-stamped, and placed it in evidence. The truth was no longer rumor. It was testimony, official and permanent. Outside, lightning split the horizon over the river. Maya stepped into the night air, fatigue settling in her bones, but a calm conviction grounding her chest. She had exposed Savannah's hidden rot. Even if Crowell retaliated, his mask was cracking. When she reached her car, Ruiz called. You'd better see this. City News feed just uploaded something. Maya opened her phone. The live broadcast showed Crowell's face pale, strained. He stood at a podium in a dimly lit chamber. Reporters shouted questions she couldn't hear. Then his voice came through, steady but shaking around the edges. I've made mistakes, he said. Back in 1991, I participated in decisions that should never have been made. If my actions contributed to injustice, I will face that consequence. Gasps filled the frame. Maya froze, gripping her steering wheel. The confession came not from pressure, but choice. Crowell hadn't been caught. He had surrendered. Within an hour, news stations rebranded the story as Asterisk, Savannah's Reckoning. Asterisk. Maya drove to Forsyth Park after midnight. The rain had stopped, the grass slick and shining under lamplight. For a long time she stood near the fountain where Emily Carter's photo had hung 34 years ago. Voices drifted faintly from passing cars, but the park itself was silent. She whispered into the night, it's over. But deep down, She knew endings were rarely clean. Emily's story had exposed a single thread. How many others lay buried beneath Savannah's polished image? Still, for this one night, justice felt tangible. The circle had closed, the truth spoken aloud, recorded, and no longer hidden. When Maya returned to her car, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. Only 3 words, asterisk, you did it. Asterisk. For once, she let the words stay unanswered. As dawn broke over the quiet city, Savannah's river shimmered gold. The same place where lies had drowned now, reflecting morning light. Morning broke over Savannah with an eerie stillness. The papers hit porches before sunrise, ink bleeding in the damp air. Asterisk, District Attorney confesses to 1991 cover-up. Asterisk beneath the headline. Alan Crowell's picture stared out, part shame, part history. The city was stunned into silence, pretending it was peace. Detective Maya Hargrove sat in her car by the river overlook. The Ogeechee slid past like liquid steel, calm but heavy, the same river that had swallowed truth for decades. She had cracked open Savannah's most protected secret, but her gut told her it wasn't finished. The phone rang. Ruiz. His voice was pale. Crowell's dead. She froze. When? An hour ago. Gunshot, Forsyth Park. Car, front seat. Looks self-inflicted. Suicide. Too convenient. Crowell had been too careful, too proud. Maya started the engine before he could say more. By the time she reached the park, sunlight cut through the moss-hung trees like amber glass. Reporters murmured behind police tape. The same fountain where Emily Carter's photo once hung now shimmered beside a body bag. A tech met her by the car. One wound, close range. No signs of struggle. Found this in the glove compartment. He handed her a clear plastic bag with a folded sheet inside. Crowell's handwriting, neat as always. Asterisk, Detective Hargrove. You were right. I kept the city's image clean by staining our hands. Emily Carter was only the first. Truth destroys men like me. Savannah's ghosts never forgive. The past is yours now. Asterisk. Just initials. A.C. Maya stared at it, expression unreadable. The crowd behind her whispered words like shame and justice. Neither sounded true. Savannah was already rewriting the story to make it easier to live with. By afternoon, every channel ran the same phrase. Asterisk, tragic ending to a lifetime of service. Asterisk, politicians wept on camera, thanking Crowell for his courage to confess. The city wanted to heal, to forget again. But Maya couldn't. At the precinct, the evidence room glowed dull under flickering lights. The Carter box sat open among stacks of statements, photographs, and signed confessions. The work was technically done, Emily's killer named, the cover-up exposed. Yet the quiet in her mind still hummed wrong. Ruiz appeared in the doorway, holding coffee. You should go home. It's over. She shook her head slowly. Closure isn't the same as truth. He leaned against the wall. You cleared Emily after 34 years. Sometimes that's enough. Then why does it feel like I missed something? Her eyes drifted to a thin file she hadn't touched before, hidden beneath Laura's interview notes. The label read, Memorial Medical Center, Staff Suspensions, 1990-1991. Curious, she opened it. A name near the top froze her. Rachel Myers, nursing intern. Listed as missing, July 1990. A year before Emily. Case closed as voluntary departure. Officer of record, Detective W. Garrison. Her pulse tightened. Garrison, the same retired investigator who'd guided her toward Matthews. The same man who always said Emily was the only one. Ruiz frowned. She disappeared from the same hospital. Maya nodded. And the same precinct handled both reports. It wasn't coincidence. It was practice. She called records. Pull me everything on Rachel Myers, Savannah PD, 1990. While waiting, she opened her inbox. A new message blinked with no sender tag. No subject line, only 3 attached photos. She clicked. They were grainy stills from a hospital lot, July 9, 1991. Emily Carter. Robert Matthews. and behind them, faint but visible, a uniformed officer watching from a doorway. The embroidered name was blurry but legible, Garrison. Maya exhaled sharply. He was there. Ruiz stared. He lied to you. Yeah, about everything. Before sunset, she drove out toward Tybee Island. The road curved along marsh and pine, the air thick with salt and memory. Bill Garrison's cabin sat quiet at the edge of the water, peeling paint, windows open to the tide breeze. He met her on the porch, older but steady, a cigarette burning between two fingers. Figured you'd find me, he said. You lied. You were at the hospital the night she vanished. He nodded slowly. That's right. Why? Because Bobby Matthews called me. Said the girl was threatening to ruin them. I thought I could calm things down. It went wrong fast. She slipped. He panicked. I panicked. Crowell said he'd take care of it. So you buried the file, Maya said coldly. He looked toward the horizon. We told ourselves we were protecting the city. All we did was protect the rot. You could have stopped it. You could have saved the others. There were no others, he said quickly, but his voice faltered, just enough to betray him. She stepped closer. Rachel Myers. 1990. You handled her case too. He froze. The silence answered for him. You let it happen twice, Maya whispered. He dropped his cigarette, voice cracking. Back then we followed orders. We didn't ask where they came from. Orders from Crowell. And the mayor, the police board, the papers, everyone wanted quiet. She studied his shaking hands. Why tell me now? He turned away. Because when a city hides a body long enough, it forgets it was human. You reminded it. Then he reached for a brown envelope on the railing. Everything's in here. Names, dates, photos Crowell kept locked away. You'll see there were at least 5 girls. All from Memorial. All gone. Maya took it carefully. You're coming with me. He gave a faint smile. No, my part ends here. Before she could reply, he stepped down toward the sand, vanishing into the gray light of evening. She called after him, but the wind carried her voice away. Back in her car, she opened the envelope. Inside were faded case files, Crowell's signature scrawled along each closure form. The last sheet bore a single line written in Garrison's trembling hand. Asterisk, forgive us. Asterisk. By the time she reached Savannah again, the city streetlights had blinked awake, casting long amber streaks across wet asphalt. At the station, Maya carried the envelope into the evidence room, laid it in the Carter box, and printed a fresh label. Unsealed, a symbolic act, but one that finally felt like truth. Outside, Ruiz waited on the steps. Everything in there? She nodded. Everything that matters. The morning mist hadn't lifted yet, and the smell of the river hung heavy. Savannah looked peaceful, almost innocent, but now she knew better. He asked quietly, you good? Maya glanced toward the horizon where the Ogeechee met the sea. I don't think good's the right word, but it's honest. And that's something. They stood there in silence as dawn crept over the rooftops. Savannah had lost its illusion of purity, but gained something rarer, memory. And for the first time since 1991, under the light of a new morning, the city's ghosts finally rested.
For years, these cases were forgotten. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Here we reopen the files, reveal the evidence, and give a voice to those who were silenced. Subscribe now and step inside the archive where time, lies, and justice finally meet. Because every secret eventually speaks.